from high atop 1926 Hollywood Boulevard, you're listening to SoFloRadio.com.
SoFloRadio.com presents Catherine B. and the Echo Revolution, a call to action for those who know things need to change. From what connects us to nature to how we eat and live, every choice we make can create symbiotic living on Earth. Green consciousness is a revolutionary shift in paradigm to heal our planet and our personal well-being in this generation. Be a part of the shift that is happening. And now, here's Catherine B.
Hey all, welcome to Catherine B. How are you? Hi George.
I was under the table.
I know, I was wondering, what are you doing under the table? Hi Miss Sunset, how are you?
Amazing.
Wonderful, good to see you. So yeah, it's been a wild season and I am loving the change of season. Can you feel it?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
It's not changing enough or fast enough or something. I'm ready for some cool weather. Yeah, that's not a complaint because I promised I wouldn't complain about the heat when I moved back to Florida. Yeah. I knew exactly what I was getting into.
I want like 50 degrees. That's nice. It's like that middle, between like hot and cold. Like
I have to remind myself this is the price we pay for roads with no potholes and not having to scrape the ice off and everything until I can afford to be a snowbird.
Yeah, well, you know what you can do too is you can get up at like 4:30 in the morning like I do and you go out and it actually feels like 50. Well, not really.
4:30?
It feels like 70. I know, but then it's so dark I go back to bed and go, why did I do that?
That's like the Beverly Hillbillies.
No, I love it. Yeah, it's been a wild, wonderful season coming to an end, and I'm really excited about this next season because I'm an earth worker. I spend so much of my time. I have a sustainable landscape company, and I teach a course on earth consciousness or green consciousness with my co-host, Mother Nature. And everything we need to know, we can learn from her, relying on nature instead of just human knowledge to guide us. And so we're coming into this next season, and I'm so excited. We're going to be doing our webinar series and our live 8-week course. So, George, I want you to join us.
Well, now that I know that it's going to be a webinar, that makes it more available to some of us. What a wonderful time we live in! That we've conquered time and space. I don't have to be at that place at a time. I can do it on my own time. So yeah, that is good to know.
Yeah, and
can I share my how Catherine B has influenced my life story before we get into your thing?
Yeah,
because it actually does tie in. It's the little things. I mean, and there are other things too. Like I really am, just using more.
We're not
going to
have to edit this, right?
Trying to, I'm, and it's just all part of my new healthy lifestyle where I'm eating more, like vegetables and not processed stuff, no more drive-through and fried foods and everything. So I'm buying oil and vinegar for my salad because I'm eating so much salad. I'm at Publix buying just tons of the salad stuff and oil and vinegar because I love oil and vinegar. That's my favorite thing, and I might put some other things in it too. But I love that. Yeah. And I'm buying the oil and vinegar, and the vinegar that I was going to buy was in a plastic bottle, and and I opted for the more expensive vinegar, balsamic, red wine vinegar in the glass bottle, and the same thing with the olive oil too.
I'm giving a hug for you,
so I got a glass bottle for both the olive oil and the vinegar instead of the plastic stuff. Little by little, I want to remove the plastics from my life, and boy, not easy.
No, it's not, right?
And everything, it's everywhere. And we were talking before the show about all the the flame retardants and everything, which is another scam.
In a lot of the liquid drinks, that's why we drink the bee water, because you're drinking flame retardant, sleeping on flame retardant, and surrounding yourself in flame retardant. But yeah, George, you touch my heart. I'm telling you, it seems sometimes like, okay, one person not buying a plastic bottle for salad dressing, how is that going to make a difference? But it does, and it does, and it does, and it shifts everything.
It starts with that, and and just little by little, I'm going to be doing more of that.
I think you just said it. It's like when you become conscious of it, when you realize that you're actually helping Earth while you're at Publix or while you're at Whole Paychecks, and you are actually doing one tiny step. And that's all it is it's a shift, but it's an awareness. It's being really present. And I think Sunset and I are both yoga teachers. Being present, like being in that moment when you're shopping and doing the right thing, it's fantastic. That's how it begins. That's how.
Right, and you realize that like you don't need all these like prescription drugs to heal you, because like for instance this week for some reason I wasn't drinking enough water.
Okay.
And like yesterday it's like my body said no, and I realized I'm like, you know what, there's no going back. Like my body is saying no. It's time to go forward. And so like thank you for that, and like just being more conscious of that and what I'm eating and putting into my body, like thank you.
Yeah, I have a whole theory in my 8-week course. It's actually called the Bee Diet, if I ever finish the book. But my course is based on this concept of drinking our nutrition and getting our essentials through fluids, instead of just diluting ourselves with this water that only takes the essential nutrients that we have and disperses it. So, when you get your proteins and your essential amino acids and all the things constantly, your whole brain and body is like swimming in this incredible nutrients. And it also shifts the paradigm, which is what the show is about, into realizing that when we have 9 billion people that are around the corner, 2050, I think, we need to feed them. And everyone's about starvation and why we need Monsanto and we need these genetically modified companies. And the truth is, there's enough spirulina, there's enough liquid protein, we can feed the world. But we have to stop seeing food and seeing our well-being through the traditional eyes that we've been using for the last 60 years. The show's going to get really serious. Oh boy, the show's going to get really interesting. I don't want to get sad or too serious, but George is actually a guest today because we're going to come back and talk about the side of this reason that we need this diet and we need to shift, because we have real problems happening with our children, with our lives, with cancer, and we have to be the generation that changes now. So we're not a human experiment. We are.
Well, we ought not be.
Actually, let's see if Sean will join us. Ems, do you want to bring in Mr. Penn's voice here?
Sure.
We all have the power to influence the terms of our mortality. We can speed up the course of the inevitable. Or drink. We fly in airplanes, drive cars. We may decide to surf big waves, or to take up base jumping as a hobby. It's called risk. We calculate the odds and make a deal with destiny. But what about the risks that are hidden from us by companies only concerned with their bottom line? Companies that force us to contaminate ourselves and our children with dangerous chemicals, day in and day out. Companies that make us all participants in the human experiment.
Okay, so like I said, I don't want to be a human experiment. I don't want my family and friends to be sick because we have put too many chemicals into this world without enough research and without enough knowledge as to what we're doing. So the 8-week course helps every single week to remove the chemicals from a certain element of your life. And we're going to go over those 8 weeks after the break. But let's talk to George about Arabella. George has the most beautiful daughter.
Amazing. She's super cool. I met her. She's amazing.
Yeah,
She's fun. She's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. She's sacred, but she is on the autism spectrum due to, I don't know, George.
We don't know. We don't know. And before I get into that, I wanted to, because I'm a science geek and I'm big into science, and I just wanted to share that how important it is to use good science in our lives when we're trying to figure out what's wrong and what's going on. And we really don't know what's causing it. There are a lot of theories, and there are things that you can read, but to have a knee jerk reaction like I did, even with knowing how science works the way that I do, and having been burned in the past because I used to be a faith-based person, and I really thought that I was beyond, being influenced unduly by my emotions to the point where I would start believing this over that or something. But none of us are immune to that, and I fell victim to that, and so I think it's important that we do a lot of research, that we people, you need to understand science yourself. If you're just listening, if you're just reading something that someone wrote or listening to something that someone said, you're not doing science. You are indeed continuing to be a faith-based person. You're putting your faith on the person that wrote that piece or is speaking. You need to do your own research, do your own science, and
question everything,
and read what these other people have to say about it. Because certainly we were as guilty as anyone of looking to place blame. And when people were advancing certain theories about the causes of autism, you'd think that I would be less quick to buy into it, but I wasn't, and because I was so very emotionally affected by it. Anybody who has a special needs child, I don't have to explain how frustrating, how angering and saddening it is at the same time, and you immediately start looking to yourself like, what did I do? What did my wife do? What did we eat? What did our lifestyle
that second
affect
guessing is a form of cancer in any relationship.
It's maddening. And then, of course, if somebody comes along, it's like, it's that person, that thing, and like, see, it's not my fault. It's that person's fault. You want to grab onto that because it makes you feel better, but that's not good science. And we do that with a lot of things, and we have to understand the different sciences that there are different things going on when we're talking about the chemicals. That there are so many different chemicals from so many different sources, and even certain things that are naturally occurring. When you get right down to the technical definition, everything is a chemical, and everything that is alive is a mutant. It has been genetically modified by nature. Everything that's more advanced than an amoeba is a genetically modified organism. Nature modified it, or we wouldn't have what we have now. Modifying the genetics of something is usually a bad thing in nature. When there's a mutation,
I like to call it hybridizing.
Yeah, but nature creates mutants. Just the radiation that comes from the earth and the sun creates mutations naturally. There have always been mutations, is how evolution happens, and usually a mutation is a bad thing, and that organism isn't viable and it doesn't survive. Okay, but on a rare occasion, a mutation is a positive thing. So we can't just just freak out over things that have been in existence for a long time, or what I like to tell people is, just because something is natural, uranium is natural, and cosmic radiation is natural, and sunlight is natural, but people get cancer from those things. Just because it existed before man doesn't make it safe. And hemlock and belladonna, there are poisons in nature. Roses have thorns. Animals and plants try to defend themselves sometimes with chemicals that they evolved.
That's what we're drinking right now. This is a chemical, the curcumin in the bee water that makes
from nature. So I just want everyone to read a lot and understand how science works. And when people who are actual scientists tell you something, they never say, take my word for it. This is one of the little touchstones, a little litmus test that you can use when you're talking to someone, is that a real person of science will never expect you to take their word for it. They will always say, here is how I came to this. Please do your own experimentation and tell me what you come up with. And science, there's a lot of competition between scientists, so they're always peer reviewing each other. I'm not talking actual scientists, because there are charlatans, there are pseudoscientists, there are people that pepper their pitch with scientific words and languages.
Well, I think too, these scientists, they are also being marketed by these companies.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of money in being a scientist.
Person graduates with a science degree, and here's the thing. They can go to work for us, the people, looking for the cure for something, or trying to identify a problem, or they could go to work for Monsanto. Now, who's offering them more money?
Right,
see, so we
exactly.
really need to
Yeah.
support the funding of sciences that benefit our lives.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the scientists that have good consciences, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have documentaries like this. We wouldn't know about the dangerous things in our world. It's because of actual science that you know what you know, that you're able to put the course on, that you're able to put on, because it's actual science and not pseudoscience. So that's my scientific pitch.
Yeah, and I
Before-
want to ask those scientists why now
Yeah.
is 1 out of 88, 1 in 88 children in America have
Yeah.
autism compared to 500 just 20 years ago.
I didn't
It's-
know a single. I have a very good memory. I knew special needs kids most of the time. It was Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of kids that I can remember that. Who's to say what their particular problem was? But everyone that I knew that was a special needs child when I was growing up, all up through my high school years, I didn't know. I didn't have a peer with autism that I knew of. You understand now? In retrospect, some of the spectrum. Okay, but nevertheless, as a father of an autistic child, I know that there's a definitive, when you're on the spectrum, you're on the spectrum. And I don't remember anyone like that. Someone with mild Asperger's, maybe, I don't know. But now my child goes to school. There are classes, not a class, there are classes. There are entire staffs. There's an entire division within the education system
But is that
dedicated.
because they're paying more attention to this, or is it because there's more
listen,
and more children?
There are
I think
more.
it's a little bit of both because, I mean,
Sure.
unless you have someone in your family or like maybe a close friend who had a brother or sister who was autistic, you probably don't see it around a lot.
It's
And
not subtle. See,
Yeah.
if it was something that, and we're talking, and then when it's not subtle, it's not subtle. With my daughter and her friends and the other kids that I've gotten to know, the other parents who have children with autism that I've gotten to know, it's not subtle. It's not one of these things. It's like, well, they just didn't know how to recognize it. There would have been a name for it. They would have called it something. All right, they would have called it hooju buju. They would have called it something. If I had a friend or a peer in my class that acted the way that my daughter acts, I would have remembered that. And my daughter is very high functioning for what it's worth. But within 5 minutes of talking to her, and even though she speaks very clearly, within 5 minutes of talking to her, it's obvious that something is different about her. And I have no recollection of any of those things. And this is very non-science. We call that an anecdotal information, which means it's just a story. But I believe that absolutely something is going on. It is way too common, and it's not just a bunch of different things.
I don't think it's just the pesticides, or it's just the vaccinations, or it's just all these theories. I think it's this modern era of
it's the soup.
It's the soup. Yeah.
When you go to a doctor,
chemical
they
soup
ask
that
you
hasn't been tested.
They ask you about the drugs that you're taking because they're afraid of chemical interaction with the drugs. But all of the different people, all of the different companies that manufacture all of these chemicals, they're not checking with each other. They're not experimenting to see whether the flame retardant chemical is going to interact with the red dye number 3. All of these concoctions, because we have this chemical revolution that the movie talks about, and so we have all of these chemicals.
Great movie, by the way, The Human Experiment.
It is,
It's
and watch documentaries. It's great because then
because that takes our power. That's how I started this course. My mother is with Alzheimer's, and the dementia is just it's mind-blowing. And like you said, I take a lot of risks, and I've not had a organic or pure life. I don't eat tofu every day and all the things that are stereotyped. And but when we have these situations, your daughter, my mother, we do tend to question more everything that we do. Emily's drinking ice. It just,
right up to the mic.
So my theory is we're never going to figure this out in time. And adding more drugs or putting your daughter on some sort of drug, I had her in the Scarlet Road test. I had her on all these. It's like, forget it.
It was so tempting. We did not.
I'm glad you didn't.
We did not, and it was so tempting because one of her problems, and especially early on, she was practically feral right up to the age of 5. She was non-communicative, very few words, and
that had to be
and
hard.
meltdown maintenance was all our life was about. Was trying to keep her from being in a state of meltdown, which is a fit, which is of course a screaming fit, not crying, screaming like somebody's pouring boiling water on her. And so her comfort zone was teeny tiny. And so we had that discussion. Isn't there something the Ritalin and this and that, and we explored that, and we decided no, because the bottom line with why we didn't is because we really don't know what's going on here.
Right.
The only thing that we can do is sedate her, and that's not right.
Right.
To dope your kid, and by the way, we used to do that. And when I see those ads, you used to buy opium for your children, opium drops or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, parenting must have been really easy.
I just put them out in the fields and work.
You could beat your children and give them opium. Was that?
Well, what we had just touched on for a moment before was the same thing, though. One of the theories is that all of these chemicals have never been tested, and there's so many that come in every single day.
Right.
And now we've got these medications included with the chemicals, and so we're just creating the soup. And so what I feel is that we have to just try to be conscious every moment of staying in the love of what we have to deal with, the love of your daughter, the love of the relationship with these people that are altered, the love of my mother and I, but going to be with her, like, oh boy, I know she's going to listen someday, but, it's not as easy as it used to be when she was smart as a whip and flying planes and soloing. And, now it's hard on the heartstrings. And then it makes us kind of find the cognitive dissonance of, I'm not in harmony. I don't want to deal. So, I just don't want to be around her. And we can't go there. We have to stay in the love. And George takes her every single week. How many times?
Twice a week.
Or
3.
She loves movement. She loves
skating.
To skate and just
with her headphones, with her own music.
She's in that Shakti. She likes to move around.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to her. It's important to me that we go, and we're very blessed because not everyone, and now because there's another thing, you don't know what's going on with your child because she started advancing by leaps and bounds at a certain point.
Wow! What was the change?
There were 2 things that changed in her life. One was sign language. She discovered
communication.
Yeah, and that's a whole other show of how useful sign language or other alternative forms of communication are for the autistic peoples.
The original mudras, being able to.
And the other thing is, very blessed. One of my close female friends has a daughter who was, at the time, she was 9 years old, and my daughter was 5, and she was a perfect mentor and template. And one of the things that children with autism do a lot is they copy, they mimic, sometimes very, very well. And she started copying this little girl and Anna and her mannerisms. And Anna was like a perfect template, perfectly patient, would hug her through her meltdowns and everything. And that's how we got her to skate in the first place. We went skating, and she saw Anna skating, and was like, let me try that out. So we're very blessed. Those things, those situations. But I think the potential was there. I believe that the people who are on the autism spectrum, it's a rewiring, and people describe it as, there's a wall around their head, or they're in an interior. Yeah, they're inside their own space. It must be so frustrating
to not be able to break out of that.
Right, but there's a barrier, both input and output, that has to be broken through, and sign language really did bridge that. It found her communication center, and she was signing and speaking at the same time. Same time, signing and speaking. So she won't sign anymore, but she speaks perfectly. I mean, not just perfectly, but she'll, her pronunciation is great. She uses big words. She still records. She speaks as if she's playing back a recording. She sounds like like the TV or the radio or something.
You can get her on the show.
Sure. She sounds like her teachers. She uses that same inflection, so you can tell that she's recording and playing back, editing the words that she wants to use. But then it sounds like a broadcast when she speaks. It's all very methodical for her. And again, thank you, God, the cosmos, randomness or chaos, whoever's responsible, because we're very lucky, and I'm very lucky, and other people aren't. We have, she has friends, she has peers. Some of them go skating too, and they're not as lucky. Their children are very coordinated but nonverbal, for example.
That would be the saddest thing.
You just really
not to hear
but
your baby.
it can change. And I've seen in some of the documentaries that I've seen, people change for the worse, because again, we really don't know what's going on. I mean, it could be an allergy to one of the million things that we're ingesting.
Well, my theory again is all of these, everything that the show is about, and about the last 60 years, is the bell curves are all very similar to what we've been experiencing in a negative way, to what we've been experiencing with the amount of chemicals in our food, and especially in our meat. I really think that we don't realize what is happening because of the leniency in America to allow so many chemicals into our food. And I'm tired of it, and not fighting the system, but I want to avoid the system. Let's see what's happened. Let's continue showing this wonderful movie, The Human Experiment. Sean Penn is the narrator of, and just see what's happened over the last couple of decades here.
Well, for me, autism is a family issue. I have a 12-year-old brother who's significantly impacted by autism, whose name is Benjamin. At 12 years old, he is pretty much nonverbal. He communicates with some sign language, and at 12 years old, he's not yet potty trained, so he's pretty significantly affected by his disability.
We can't fully account for all of the increase by looking at changes in definition, looking at changes in practice, looking at age at diagnosis. Accounting for all those things, there's still a big part of the rise that we can't account for at this point in time.
My brother has affected my life in every way that anyone can. In hindsight, things probably would have been really different had I not had a sibling with autism.
Do chemicals cause autism?
Well, that's the question of the hour, isn't it?
The questions don't stop there. What are the causes of the increased rates of childhood brain cancer, asthma, leukemia in children, early onset puberty, ADHD, genital deformities in baby boys, and life-threatening birth defects? All are on the rise since the dawn of the modern chemical revolution.
From the Middle Ages down to modern times, the magic of chemistry has fascinated mankind. This is the age of industrial chemistry.
Over the last 100 years, thousands of chemicals have been introduced into our society. 80,000 chemicals are on the market in the United States. They're in everything from curtains, upholstery, and furniture to the makeup or shaving cream you used this morning. Your electronics, cleaners, the very materials used to build your home. 42 billion pounds of chemicals enter American commerce every day. That amount would fill up 623,000 tanker trucks. Over the last half-century, chemical use in America has gone up more than 2,000%. Chemicals surround us. They are inside of us. Most of these chemicals are not tested for their safety because industry in America does not have to prove a chemical is safe before it gets onto the market. Instead, like a defendant in an American courtroom, the chemical is innocent until proven guilty.
The biggest concern that I have is our astounding ignorance. really about the effects of most of the chemicals that are in commerce.
We don't even know what's in our furniture, what's in our cleaning supplies, what's in our shampoos, our body washes, our lotions, our makeup. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention to what the hell is going on.
We're doing things to our physiology that on an individual level don't seem that profound. When you take it and multiply it over millions of people, over 100 years, you're talking about entire populations that have had, their life chances totally limited.
The Environmental Protection Agency is in charge of monitoring the chemical industry in the U.S. as laid out by the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976. When TSCA came into law, there were already 62,000 chemicals on the market which were grandfathered in, assumed safe because they were already in use. It's almost impossible for the EPA to gather enough data to remove any of these chemicals from the market because of this toothless law.
There's not a requirement that existing chemicals demonstrate safety. The procedural hurdles, once we judge there to be a risk, are very high. So taking action once you know that there is a risk is incredibly difficult. As a matter of fact, the one time we tried it, we actually lost in court.
In other news today, there's a setback for the government's effort to get rid of asbestos, a mineral which is suspected of causing cancer and lung disease. A federal appeals court has overturned the Environmental Protection Agency's 2-year-old ban on the manufacture and import of asbestos. The court told the EPA to try again.
We did 10 years of analysis and we banned asbestos. We were sued on that, taken to court, and the court overturned the ban, which had a pretty chilling effect on the agency's subsequent effort.
Oh, wow. I love this line. I think it's going to be one of my mantras. If you are not outraged, you're not paying attention.
Right.
And it's outrageous. This is.
I'm outraged.
We have the money, and so what do we do as yogis with outrage? We don't live in the shit. We don't live in the emotion. We process through it, and we just stay centered. But we gotta do more. We have to really fix this, and I think the only way we can fix it is to first look at the major things: what we breathe in, where we are emotionally, and what we eat, and what our actions are.
What we teach, everything.
Yeah. I think that what you did with your daughter is based in love and based in, caring and being involved. But I also wonder, can I ask you?
Sure.
Were you guys vegetarians?
No.
Okay. Again, I'm not trying to make you feel like...
No, it's fine, because I've thought all those things, and it's important. And if people can learn from my mistakes, so much the better. My ex...
Because I secretly hate the meat companies so much.
She probably had the poorest, and as far as I know still does, have probably the poorest dietary choices. Very typical American. If you want to envision a good old-fashioned American that is making all of the wrong food choices on a regular basis, a lot of drive-through, a lot of takeout, ordering pizza, ordering Chinese.
We all do it, though. We've all done it.
Well, to the exclusion of much of anything else. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that was
I don't do it anymore.
Was her diet. No, I mean I'm way better. And just after seeing something like that, and I know people are going to go, because you're going to talk about your course, which is an important thing. But honestly, because I lived in Montana a long time, and everybody there, it's more or less normal. It's more or less part of the culture to do the kind of things that people down here see as off the grid.
Okay.
The hunting and the fishing and the gardening and the people and the canning, because you had the canning thing on.
Yeah.
The only way that you can trust what you're eating is if you grew it yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, you really don't know. If you're buying something from a store somewhere, you just don't know. And I remember, because it was funny, I remember the E. coli spinach situation that was going on, and that happened because of human waste, which is very natural.
Well,
and it wasn't invented by a chemist. But these are the kind of things that can happen when you don't really know your food source. Where is it coming from? Who is making it? What country? What are their laws? What are their standards? You just really don't know. This is a faith-based decision that you're making when you purchase food from a company. If you're not producing it yourself, that's the only way to know what's in there. And because you're producing it yourself, because you garden, you know what's in your soil.
Yes.
Because you're responsible.
I know what's in my eggs. I know what my girls are eating.
Exactly, because it's not just, you are what you eat. That doesn't just apply to us, but it applies to the vegetables as well.
And I think too, the reason I asked you if you're a vegetarian or whatever is that we in America, we grew up eating meat. Most of South America, most countries have a meat culture, but our meat culture has only gotten more and more and more excessive. And one of the hugest problems with it is the toxicity. We're going to show a clip. So this one is my favorite teacher. He is my Dr. Science geek, Michael Greger. If you ever go to nutritionalfacts.org, put in a question. He's got some brilliant research. It's not his own opinions. It's seriously researched work. So check it out, America. Guess what's been in your chicken?
In 2013, Maryland became the first state to ban the feeding of an arsenic-containing drug to chickens, used to control all the parasites and give their meat an appealing pink color. In 2011, FDA found that the livers of chickens fed this drug had elevated levels of inorganic arsenic, a known human carcinogen. In response, the drug's manufacturer, Pfizer, voluntarily pulled the drug off the U.S. market, although it's still sold overseas, including in places that continue to export chicken back to us. And a similar arsenic-containing drug for use in poultry is still available in the United States. But at least the ban kept Maryland farmers from using stockpiles of the drug. How much arsenic gets into the actual meat, though, not just the internal organs, we didn't know until recently. Researchers at the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health coordinated the purchase of chicken breasts at grocery store shelves in 10 cities across the country and found 70% of samples of chicken meat from poultry producers that didn't prohibit arsenic drugs were contaminated with the cancer-causing form of arsenic at levels that exceeded the safety thresholds originally set by the FDA, that is, before they relented and admitted there's really no safe level of this kind of arsenic. See, when the drug was first approved, scientists believed its organic arsenic base would be excreted unchanged, and organic arsenic is much less dangerous than inorganic arsenic. But guess what appears to convert the drug into the carcinogenic form? Cooking. When chicken meat is cooked, levels of the arsenic-containing drug go down, and levels of carcinogenic arsenic go up, suggesting that the drug may degrade into the cancer-causing inorganic arsenic species during cooking. How much cancer are we talking about? If you estimate that about 3/4 of Americans eat chickens, then the arsenic in that chicken has potentially been causing more than 100 cases of cancer every year. They conclude that eliminating the use of arsenic-containing drugs in chicken and pig production could reduce the burden of arsenic-related diseases in the U.S. population. That's one of the ways arsenic gets into rice. When we feed arsenic to chickens to pink in their flesh, the resulting arsenic-bearing poultry manure is then introduced to the environment, the soil, the water, and then the rice can then suck it up from contaminated soil and be transferred to human beings that don't even eat chicken. We're talking massive environmental contamination from the poultry industry. Nearly 2 million pounds of arsenic has been poured into the environment every year by the chicken industry alone in the United States. And now we're even seeing arsenic in food sweetened with organic brown rice syrup, so there's all these knock-on effects. It reminds me of the arsenic in apple juice story. Although the U.S. made lead and arsenic-based pesticides illegal years ago, they still persist in the soil, so even organic products are not immune. Yes, there's arsenic deposits naturally found in the Earth's crust, and there's other industrial contamination and pesticide use, but arsenic-containing poultry drugs have been deliberately administered to animals intended for human consumption for 70 years. Consequently, exposures resulting from the use of these drugs are far more controllable than our exposures from environmental sources. And the good news is that thanks to a lawsuit from the Center for Food Safety and other consumer groups, 3 out of the 4 arsenic-containing drugs fed to poultry have been officially pulled from the market.
So the drugs have been pulled, but why were they there in the first place? Why is organic arsenic in our food? Why is this acceptable? And my course is not about becoming a vegetarian, but trust me, everyone on the course becomes a vegetarian.
Yummy? I mean, why are they putting arsenic in the chicken? Does it taste good? Is it an antibiotic?
Well, it was the way that I guess the meat looks with this. It's marketable.
Dip meat into bleach and everything. And I know you asked about the vegetarianism, so I just want to tell you, I am trying. I actually go for days in a row, which is something. If people that knew me for a long time, to hear me talk, when I say I'm weaning myself off of meat, they think that I'm crazy. It's like, but George, you have a bacon shrine in your apartment. It's like, and that's funny because it's true. I have a collection of bacon things. I have a bacon pillow.
Oh, sure.
And and I was always militant. I mean, I was raised in some little small towns in beef country, but vegetables, and I'm feeling better as a result of just not all that animal fat, just all that lard. It has me feeling so much better.
Yeah, and see, and you're in harmony a little bit here because when we talk about the word cognitive dissonance, we are
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
you're talking about me.
It means that sonance. We want this beautiful harmony at all times. So when we go to eat meat, we feel in harmony with our families or whatever we're feeling good about. But the truth is that we don't want to shake it up. We don't want to walk around feeling miserable or out of balance. So we just tend to ignore this reality and try to create this false harmony. So the 8-week course is an echo harmony course. You want to hear about what it is?
I do.
What it is.
I want to
what
hear all
you're
about
get
it.
into. All right. And so for you listeners out there too, we will be doing Emily and I will be running a free webinar that you can listen to. But the 8 weeks first starts with removing all of the toxins from your kitchen and your pantry and from where you eat, your refrigerator. And we also start removing the plastic like George did from what we shop, and then you start removing anything that comes in contact with your food to your mouth. Okay, we focus on that, and we focus on just really getting organized and observing how much we actually have to use. I mean, don't get me wrong, some plastics are fantastic. Our life is so much better, but it's out of control at this point now. And so the second week then goes into finding the toxins in the areas where we strengthen our body, which is in our bedrooms, and it's in our gyms, in our places that we drive in our cars. And so we start removing in every level, every single week, these toxic chemicals from our areas. And all of a sudden, you start replacing them with wood or metals, hopefully the right ones. And you just kind of take this wonderful security, knowing that you've done your part to not having these chemicals always around you, breathing them in, touching your skin, eating them. And the third week is more about clothing and changing what we wear. And we're going to be really attacking the fast fashion business because this is a huge issue.
Good.
And and by the fourth week,
Thrift store.
yeah, man.
Yeah, I love my thrift
Right here.
stores.
Love
That's
our
what's
thrifts.
big. It's big on me, but I liked it. So
it looks
I
good.
bought
You
it
look
anyway.
good in red. George is wearing red for you listeners.
Yeah.
And then by the fourth week, we've cleared out everything, and you guys and people are beginning to drink their protein instead of eating meat and arsenic chicken, and it's fascinating.
Do you have a recipe for that?
Yeah, but the diet begins on the fifth week, and then all of a sudden it's like effortless. The weight's coming off, your tummy's getting all sexy and small. You've been lifting weights or lifting rocks, whatever, if you don't want to go to the gym, and all of a sudden you're sleeping better because these chemicals are out. So then the next week we kind of bump it up a notch, and we talk about what happens at night, and then it kind of goes into the tantra, and it goes into owning our sexy vibe, which those toxins kill. And yeah, I mean,
think about the chemicals, like the prescriptions, like most of them.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things that is on it as something that will happen is that you lose sex drive. Why?
And honey, you're like in your 20s, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I'm meeting people my age, 25, 26, and they're going through ED.
Yeah.
That was never like that before. That will happen like 50s and 60s. Now it's happening in their 20s.
No, if you
crazy.
have that, it's just a circulation thing, which is also Gregor will be on again about meat and why erectile dysfunction is just a precursor to a heart attack. And that's really the same thing, different organs. But okay, so back to the tantra.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah,
It's called the Bee Diet. That's what the course is.
Yeah, it's called the Bee Diet, Eating for Well-Being. I still haven't named the book, so if you listeners could give me a really good name. But yeah, and so then by the seventh and eighth week, we also go back kind of full circle. We have limited our meat, and some of us are vegetarians by this point, but then we really give honor to the sacredness of our food cultures, and we understand that agriculture and farming and certain things, these are what define us. I'm from the Midwest, and then it's a choice, and it's really like George said in the very beginning of the show, you choose your own science as to how you're going to keep your health, and just through wellness we find our call to action, because the coolest thing about week 7 and 8 then at the very end of the course is that you have improved yourself, you're looking good, you're feeling sexy, you're also working on goals. You're working on like an 8-week goal to achieve, which is, I've had students like get YouTube stations, and I've had students start books, and I've had students start relationships. But by the end of the 8th week, you realize that everything that you've done benefits not only you, but Mother Earth. And it's all about Mother Nature. And it's all about living with this like green consciousness. And it's not this narcissistic, like, I'm going to get really skinny. And, it's everything is for the benefit of Earth. And that's the coolest part. And that's what I'm really proud of with this course. And you start seeing it everywhere, and you just start feeling really in this bee harmony. And I just love it. So I really hope you get
Well,
to
I'm
take
excited that I can look at it online. Thank you, Internet.
So why did you put the course like that? Why did you order it like that?
Oh, thanks. Well, there's a real specific reason. We're all human, and we all can, for like 1 week, get super excited, right? Like, I'm going to go do this course. I'm going to go lose this weight. I'm going to go start running and stuff like that, so that we have this impulse decision to change our life. But in order to make the mind and the brain really change, you need about 60 days. 66 is, I think, the traditional number, because it takes about 21 days to start. It takes 3 minutes to start a new habit, and it takes 21 days to make that new habit stick. And then it takes about 66 days to take the new habit into a permanent behavior. And that's when the magic happens, because during the break we were talking about, how we have all gone to McDonald's. We've all done these things. And
By the way,
when that 60
not for years.
Yeah,
McDonald's.
me too.
I cut them out a long
Yeah,
time ago.
same
Just
here.
just for selfish reasons.
Hangovers for me was-
You know, it's just nasty. It's just nasty.
But my point is, like, after 66 days, it's in your behavior, and you just can't. You can't have consciousness and then go against it. And when you
Right.
do, it's like you know what you're doing, and hopefully you're going to be feeling so motivated and so great. And I think the most important thing is that it gives you peace of mind. And unfortunately, like what you went through with your daughter, or when we have these horrible physical ailments in our families or with people that we love, we have to have a strong peace of mind, because the world's crazy out there.
Oh yeah.
We got to stay in that centered self, and then know, like, we did as much as we could. We were as proactive as we could to make the shift into this new consciousness. And
Well, I think it's great that you're
thanks.
doing that, and you've already been an influence in my life, and it catches on, you know, and I can find myself having a positive influence in the lives of the people around me, because I'm making better decisions, so that, you know, it kind of embarrasses them to make a better decision. Well, peer pressure can be very, you know, positive or negative.
Yeah.
And I was subject to very negative peer pressure for a long time, and that's no excuse and stuff. But it is, you're not going to just sit there and eat a salad with oil and vinegar on it when everybody else is and you're at the dinner table is having pizza.
I call it diplomatic. You know, it's
Yeah.
the only reason I'm not a pure vegetarian was a moment.
Social.
Yeah, and I wanted to honor this person who spent all this time cooking this meal, and so I didn't make a scene and go, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian." I just simply honored her by tasting her food, and you know,
I can make good choices at the store.
There you go.
I can't make good choices at home when I'm hungry. If the food is there, if somebody's ordering that food, I'm going to eat it, and I'm not going to resist. And yes, you know, strike me down. I'm weak.
Yeah,
You're human.
Yeah, but at the store, man, you should see me making good shopping decisions when I'm at the store, because all of the options are there. So you can grab for this or grab for that.
Yeah,
you know, you really.
I always
so many
say,
good
for the
salad
most part, if you're eating healthy, it's okay to have to give in to the Western desires a little bit. You understand me? Like, I love my pizza, I love my Spanish food, but I can decide, again, if I want to do that every day.
right.
You know what I mean? And it's all about balance, really.
And then I think you hold it special.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you get that beautiful Spanish traditional meal, it's really special because we're just in this country where we have so much decadence. We have so much available to us. And I think that's why so many people are in trouble, because there's just too much. So to stay in that false harmony that we just keep on eating and we think that we're doing great and we feel somehow elevated, but actually all it does is turn us into this enslaved society, stuck on a healthcare system that doesn't work. And then you look at these societies where they have so little, but they're so connected to Earth, they're so connected to Mother Nature, and then all of a sudden they're connected to everyone else. And what I love about the bee diet is the connection that you feel with swimming with the fishes and looking at the chickens and looking at the cows and realizing, like, you know, I'm part of this huge picture and all life is sacred and all life on Earth was here for a reason. So let's talk about Mother Earth a little bit more. And next week, listeners, I'm going to have Sharon Sombrick on, and she's one of my graduating students from the course. She lost like 20 pounds and more than that. She has a daughter that had 6 heart surgeries. Wow. So another thing where, you know, and she felt like fear for so many years. But this is a video that she turned me on to, and we're going to be using it as part of the show for next week. So this is just an intro, and it's brilliant.
Tribe of many colors, meaning people all over the world, no matter what background they're from, or what color, or what religion, whatever it is, we are brothers and sisters on this planet. We're supposed to come together once again and remember that Mother Earth is alive. Animals have a spirit. We're not the owners of nature. We're not the owners of land. We're not the owners of trees and animals. We're the stewards of. We're the caretakers of. And we should have a relationship with Mother Earth again. And why is that so important? It is because if you do not know how to love Mother Earth, you will never respect her. You will buy plastic and throw it out the window. You will do things that harm her. But the moment you have a relationship with her, you know her and you love her, that's when you start taking care of her and the animals and the wilderness. Yes. And so we need to gather ourselves together as brothers and sisters. We are all on this planet together as one, no matter how much pigment in our skin cells we have. Yes. We are all equal. We were all sent here as equals. We're all as beautiful as each other. Come together instead of focusing on the differences. Come together and love each other for who we are and respect one another and enjoy our differences and love this planet once again. And then we stop focusing on ego and we start focusing on love. And through love we can heal all the wounds that we have created.
And the big problem is that I think everybody on Earth Day is so mind-washed into with schools, religions, and everything that we really don't believe that Mother Earth has its own consciousness. I think that's the biggest problem. What can we do with that?
Well, the first thing you have to realize, or even be asked, is where does consciousness come from? Yes. Where does Earth consciousness, we all know that there's a consciousness on our planet. Where does it come from? And most people do not know the answer to this. It comes from us. What we believe, what we do, what we feel, what we say, our actions, all feed one or two things in consciousness. There's only ego or love consciousness. There's only two. So with every action, every feeling, every emotion, you are feeding ego consciousness or you're feeding love consciousness. First we have to remember that one true fact.
That was the easy one.
Very easy. Yeah. The elders say everything that is simple is true. Yes. Simple as that. The other thing, first we have to remember that this is a reality. We're creating it. Second is we do get caught up in our day-to-day nonsense. And I like to call it nonsense because how much energy do you give on a daily basis, do we all give on a daily basis, to what other people expect of us, what other people think of us, what society demands of us? Yes. I would say 95% of our energy every day goes to what other people think and trying to fill those shoes. But if you can look at life from a higher perspective and just for a moment think, I'm a great I am. I have a spark of greatness in me, a soul. And I decided to send that soul to this planet to gain a body and to experience Earth life. And that Earth life is a journey. We are taking a test. We are experiencing everyday duality, love, sadness, anger. We do all of these things, but it's about experience. It's about learning and growing, becoming better people, just having the...
He is also talking to the planet. And I asked him what we're using up all the resources and electricity and everything. What can we give back? And he says, no, give Mother Earth love and gratitude.
Absolutely.
That's something easy we can do.
It's true. You sat here just 10 minutes ago and said you had Don Alejandro sitting in this chair not too long ago. Yeah. He's the leader of the whole Mayan civilization right now. Yeah. Do you know that the elders, including him, all the grand elders on our planet right now, are saying that the humankind, to heal our planet and heal ourselves, have one thing and one thing only to do: be love. They are not asking us to go protest our government. They're not asking us to go rally on the streets. They're not asking us to do anything. They're asking us to be love. When you act in love, when you feel love, when you are grateful, your energy rises as high as it can go. Gratitude is the highest energy you can achieve on planet Earth, followed by love. And when you're feeling love and gratitude, you literally change the consciousness on our planet, and you change your own energy. When that happens, you are in synchronicity with Mother Earth, with the plants, with the animals, with your brothers and sisters. And in love, you will change.
And in love with it all. Oh.
Reloaded on the bee water over here.
We are excited.
So, Catherine, how can I find out more about the bee diet?
You can go to catherineb.com and we will have all of the free complimentary webinars. We're going to be doing some mini ones And then we'll be doing the 8-week course live in South Florida. So if you want to come down and get all sexy and wonderful before Art Basel and the holiday season, the course will end early December, and it will be beginning middle of October. So please, CatherineB.com. And George, thank you so much for sharing
It's a
from
pleasure.
the heart.
Thank you. I'm so glad that that you're here on SoFlowRadio.com.
I'm glad I'm here too.
And being a positive influence, we need a lot more positive you in the world and on the air. It's you're infectious in a good way. I have positive changes in my life.
Sunset, thank you too, honey. Love you. So excited.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Catherine B. and the Echo Revolution on SoFlowRadio.com.